The beer cold though? That's for real.
Amazing style. Oh, you got to celebrate the
You've
victories,
got it.
haven't you?
You've got to say.
And then so I've seen bits, and I know that you've always got that hat on.
Oh, but look, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
What's you doing? What's you mean?
Welcome to the Bogey Boys podcast.
You're joined here by Kevin and Mark as always, and we've got a special guest, Mr. Justin Parsons. How are we, brother?
All good, thanks, boys.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. I know you've got a busy schedule. What is it you're up to at the moment, mate?
I'm back on Sea Island for a few days after the Florida swing. Although I swerved the Honda Classic. I had three tournaments in a row, and looking forward to getting prepped up for the Masters. I kind of felt the match play was one where it's kind of mano versus mano. I've got a couple of guys there playing, but nice to be where I call home now for a few days, and thankfully the weather's warming up a bit too.
Is there a conflict of interest if you go to match play? If you've got two of your students against each other, don't give him tips. Give me tips.
I suppose it would be. You just have to do your job and be a pro. It's funny, when you look at those guys as well, they have to play against friends and they've got to play against people that they probably feel differently about. So at the end of the day, you got to go out there and just try and do a job. And it would be a weird feeling, especially if you had two guys who were playing in the final match or something. You were wandering up and down the range with both of them.
Exactly. Yeah. What are you telling him? What's his plans? Yeah. What's his tactics?
Just turn your phone off.
Well, you remember, some of the people listening probably too young to remember when Tiger Woods played Darren Clarke in one of the first World Match plays. I think it was about 2001, and Butch was helping both the guys, and Darren was sitting smoking a big cigar. He'd have maybe a one-up lead after the morning play, and Butch went past, and Darren said, "Don't you worry about me. Go and sort him out." And he ended up beating Tiger on that occasion.
That's great.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah. So obviously, as our listeners will know, the idea of these shows is just to get some insight from people at the top level in the game. You're obviously got an amazing caliber of players under your roster that you teach. So obviously, just to start on your journey, Justin, how did you get into the game?
It was funny. I'll not digress too much, but my late uncle Roy had me hitting a couple of balls in a field in Ireland when I was about 11 years old, and he showed me how to grip the club and stuff. And then I was always into rugby and football and the various things, more kind of active things. And in the summer when I was about 13, a buddy of mine and I went down to Ardglass Golf Club. You might see pictures of it. It's a beautiful golf course in Northern Ireland. And we ended up playing 36 holes that day, and I fell in love with it. I was always an obsessive kind of character. I just went nuts. And from 13 to 18, all I did really was play golf, boys championships in the summer, youth championships, played all over Ireland. Was a reasonably good amateur golfer. I came out to the States on a scholarship to Alabama, and I didn't last it very long. It wasn't quite right for me. Came home and turned pro in Belfast. Played on the old MasterCard tour, which you boys would know now, the Euro Pro Tour for a year and a bit. And I had battled sort of back injuries and things, which, again, you hear it a lot, but it wasn't really helping my game. I wasn't certainly heading towards being the best golfer in the world. And I was pretty quickly drawn into teaching in my mid-20s, and worked at Blackwood Golf Centre in Northern Ireland, which is a really, really busy golf facility. I was very fortunate. I think I did 30-minute golf lessons in those days, which looking back is, it's not really enough time. But anyway, I was doing 60 to 80 lessons a week, and I saw, so many different types of clients, from juniors to seniors to, ladies, men, players with great ability, players who were, beginners and stuff. And I think, with young coaches growing up, they always say to me, well, what should I do? What seminars should I do? What should I do? I think you need to teach. You need to teach. You need to see people hitting golf balls. You need to understand how to deal with different types of people. So that was pretty much where I kind of, I got a lot of the groundwork done as a coach or a teacher, seeing all those people hitting golf shots and obviously making mistakes and having given people hopefully good experiences. When I moved out to Dubai in 2004. And I ended up working at the Montgomery Dubai, which is a great facility operated by Troon Golf, which were the upscale kind of golf management leaders. And I was showing how to present a lesson to put the pyramids of golf balls together, make sure everything was looking pristine. And obviously Dubai had and still does have a great reputation in that regard with facility management and things. And I was, I guess I was doubly lucky to work for Wayne Johnson, who used to work for Butch Harman, back in the day in Vegas. Mark Gregson Walters was there, who's been a close, confidant of Pete Cowan over the years, and was doing a lot of stuff with Ramsey McMaster. And I was really lucky to be around some really, really good people there. And furthermore, teaching at an amazing facility at the Montgomery. And having done 3 years there, Claude Harmon asked me to come out to Dubai Sports City, which was really only 5 or 6 miles away, to open up the Butch Harmon School of Golf, which we did in early 2009. And we opened up there. We had a fantastic facility with TrackMan, and we had force plates, and we had sand putt lab, and we had 3D. We ran the advanced motion measurement Paul Hemus system there. We did a lot of work with the guys at TPI. So we were really very lucky to use a lot of the technology that we're seeing people get very used to. We were using that obviously 12 or 13 years ago. So find myself teaching a few guys in America. The commute from Dubai to the United States isn't easy on me or my family at that time. I've still got 2 pretty young children. And I was given the opportunity to come out here to Sea Island to work as an elite golf instructor here at our Golf Performance Center, and moved out here in January of 2019. So I'm into my 3rd year. Can't quite believe it.
Yeah. Amazing story, amazing journey as well to get to where you are. You touched there on technology and obviously using that so long ago in the Dubai setup. What's your view on the whole way technology is being used now? What Bryson's doing with the speed and how distance is being dominated in the game at the moment?
I think it's, I think we're probably finding a way around towards the sweet spot of technology use. At this point, I think that people are understanding that, the TrackMan is a fantastic device, but at the end of the day, it's a diagnostic device in the same way that you go to a doctor's surgery and have an X-ray. The doctor still has to tell you what's wrong and how to fix the problem. So just because we've got great diagnostics doesn't necessarily mean that we're knowing exactly how to fix the problem. What we're seeing with somebody like Bryson is that he's monitoring his work through 3D motion capture. He's obviously got his GC quad and his TrackMan there, which can help him understand exactly what's going on with the golf ball. He's got Chris Como, who's a fantastic golf teacher with a very lean towards biomechanics. So they're able to put all that sort of holistic picture together. And when you have somebody with Bryson's brain who's able to digest, comprehend, and then execute the things that he's being asked to do, we're seeing somebody who's certainly been able to go to the very, very ends of that whole kind of speed window. I think more recently I've seen him at tournaments, and he seems to have trimmed down a little bit.
We noticed that, he has, yeah.
Yes, I mean, and again, I know Chris very well, but I haven't spoken to Chris about this. Chris gets on with his own thing, but from an outsider looking in, his golf swing looks a little bit more balanced.
Yeah,
he looks as if he's reined the speed down a little bit, and I think he's probably trying to figure out, well, I've got all these attributes that I've got access to. Which ones should I be going after, and how much do I need to push the envelope before I push it a bit too far?
Yeah, no, it's amazing to see what he can do, and he can turn it down when he wants to. It just shows the level of his ability. And even we've just had reports there of what Rory's come out and said he got caught up in the whole saga, didn't he?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat about that in Phoenix. Michael Bannon, his coach, hasn't really been able to travel very much with the whole COVID situation. And Rory and I have always sort of talked about the golf swing and stuff. I've never been his instructor, but we've been friends for many years. And he said, "What do you think I done wrong?" And I said, "Well, I think you maybe got you got after the speed a little bit too much, and maybe got you out of position a little bit." And I think he's certainly a player. When you look at him at his best, he basically from 125 yards out to 325 yards, he makes it look like a PlayStation game. I mean, he's just so. Such a fantastically gifted ball striker, and such a fantastically gifted player at putting the club on the ball from those different distances. And I think looking at, again, taking that one attribute of being able to maximize your distance will sometimes take some of the other great things you're able to do, and where you put one graph up, the other graph's going to go down a little bit. So he'll figure out how to get the most out of those two areas, and I've always been a great fan of his. So the thing I want to see the most is him back competing to win major championships.
Likewise.
Definitely. But, say one of your students that you've got now, all top level players like a Woodland or a Harris English comes in and they start chasing distance like the way Rory has. Surely there's more to it than just Rory going out there and chasing the distance. There's people he has to speak to and there's a whole process behind it. Surely someone should be saying to him, that's not the best thing for you to be doing.
Well, without knowing what sort of checks and balances he put in place for that. I mean, if one of those guys came to me and they said to me, "Look, I really need to get a little bit more out of this," well, we've got to put a plan in place, and we've got to say, right, are we going to do that through strength and conditioning? Are we going to do that through nutrition, through you getting bigger? Are we going to do that through some swing mechanic changes? We've seen fantastic, some really cool things coming out of all different parts of the world about how we use the floor, how we use the ground, how we can gain more speed, etc. Are we going to go down that avenue, or are we going to look at some sort of different equipment that you might use to be able to get more? So you've got 3 or 4 different avenues that you can go down in order to get that. So then you would need to put a plan in place and then execute that plan, and that's certainly the way I would do it. I mean, I work with Michael Thompson, and Michael is probably one of the, medium to slower players on tour. And we've looked at, his mechanics, big, strong legs, trying to get him to use his lower body a little bit more. And we're just seeing him being able to, get up in and around 112, 113 miles an hour club head speed over like a 109 that he'd been kind of cruising around, which, as we know, it's not fast, but he's a fabulous golfer. So, you just got to be careful, because whenever you delve down that rabbit hole, if you go too far, you can take away a lot of other attributes that maybe the players needed in order to shoot the lowest score he can shoot.
Yeah, definitely. There's more to it, isn't it, than just getting that distance. It's a very skillful game. We found that on our podcast that we're doing when we're looking at statistics. It's very rare the longest hitter wins the tournament. There's more to it, isn't there? So you've got to take those elements of the game. So talk us about your philosophy as a coach then, Justin. Does it differ dependent on players, or have you got one way of coaching?
No, totally different. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I don't have as much hair left as I should have, and why I don't sleep as well at night, because I try and I just think this game is such a fantastically individual endeavor, and we're all gifted and cursed in different areas where some people can move with that grace and high speed at with driver and 3-wood, and then other guys are brilliant putters, and some people are nervous characters, and some people are very, confident characters. And some people need a kick in the ass, and some people need an arm around them. And it's kind of figuring out how to do all of that, while you're working with these golfers. The swing stuff, I guess, I like anybody have preferences that where the golf club might be, and where the golf club would. What I prefer it not to be. Certainly like in the takeaway and in delivery and things like that. And I'd have preferences with posture and obviously dependent on body style, but it really is a very, very individual sport. And the more that the more I look at it, the more I think that, even warm-ups and things, Harris English and I've been looking at his warm-up recently, and like Harris likes to do a little bit of mechanical work during a warm-up. So he puts these sticks in the floor, and we have a couple of little different warm-ups that we go through to help him with feeling the club in certain places. And then other players don't do that. Like Louis would never really do that, unless he wasn't hitting it very well, and he had a little drill that he was going to do. So it really is just such an individual endeavor. And as you get to know them all more, you realize that the way they tick is all a little bit different. So I'll keep trying to get the best out of each and every person. And I'm not a real systematic teacher. That's not the way I work.
So do you know that you're saying all these names that you're teaching currently now? Who was
name dropping?
Name dropping, yeah. Pick them up.
Sorry. You get another one.
Yeah, but who was the first person who? Because obviously, when you're coming up and you essentially nobody knows who you are. You're working with Claude or Butch in Dubai. Who was the first person who actually give you a shot? Like who was actually a tour player?
Very much before Claude, and back in the Montgomery, I worked with a Swedish player called Mikael Lundberg.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one time, Mikael was doing something with his takeaway. It wasn't quite right. He was down. Do you remember the Indian Open in Delhi? Do you remember they used to play? And I went to that tournament a couple of times. It was literally like playing golf in the jungle. It was a really difficult golf course. And I had Mikael hover the golf club, which he'd never done before. And I watched it on TV. And I said to my wife, girlfriend at the time, I said, he's hovering the golf. I told him to do that. And that was probably the first time I could remember like a European tour player, as it would have been in those days, actually doing something in a big golf tournament or a big-ish golf tournament that I'd asked him to do. So
Nice.
he was probably the first tournament professional that I had some sort of impact on. And that was back at the Montgomery. And then, I helped Michael Hoey a little bit for a couple of years, who's a fabulously talented player, won the amateur championship at Prestwick. David Howell, who was he is a good friend of mine. We worked together for 2 years, and he had a really good 2 years. He made some money. I got on board with his system, brilliant putter, helped him with his golf swing a little bit. So those were, back in the day, those were some of the lads. I helped Stevie Webster a little bit. And then really, I probably got more success with Peter Uline than anyone. At that time, Peter was coming off an injury, and I helped Peter go from, I think whenever I started with him, he was out into the sort of mid 270th in the world. And then, we worked for 2.5 years, and he was in the top 50 in the world. And that's kind of how people became, they recognized me in America, because Pete's obviously a good golfing name here with what he's done and what his father does, etc. And he was going so well at the time. So I was pleased to see him play well this week in Louisiana on the Corn Ferry.
That's good. And I also seen a couple of pictures of you and Will Smith there. So it must be attracting things outside the golf as well.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he came over, I think, from reading a few things, he was going through a wee rocky patch with his family and stuff, and he came over to Dubai and spent some time, and the royal family looked after him, and he did a few little performances, and he came down to the golf school just after New Year's. He basically said, I'd love to do a week. And I said, okay, well, and it was one of those where I had to take my calendar, which was already full, and then say, right, Will's going to work from 7:30 to 9. So I had to take everyone and just slide them back, for 2 or 3 hours. But he was brilliant. He was always on time. He worked his ass off. He was polite, kind to everyone. And I learned an awful lot from him about, the way that he goes about his business. He's a lot of these big superstars, you realize that whether in golf or other walks of life, they're fiercely passionate about what they're doing, and they don't have any time to waste just hanging around. It they want to get in, they want to get work done, and then they want to go to the next thing.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. It's I had to get that one in there as soon as I seen it. I thought I've got to ask him about that. Is he any good?
Right. He's all right. I mean, we actually went up to Jumeirah Golf Estates and played. I would say that Will at the time, the way he said to me the way his schedule works, he basically does a film for 18 months and then takes 12 months off and then does it, so it's nice. Very disjointed thing, and then, he becomes interested in other things. So, I would say if he was consistently being able to play golf, he could probably end up being a single figure, like a 6 or a 9 or something like that. At the time we started, he was, his ball striking wasn't very good. And, we went through a real heavy spell of 10 or 14 days. And, he started to hit it a lot better. And you would have imagined you could probably back him to, to shoot 15 to 18 over on a big golf course. So I think if he time, certainly he's a big, strong lad and, a decent athlete. So he was rapidly figuring it out.
He's not looking on a PGA Tour then.
No, I think he's probably done okay. He doesn't have to worry about going Holiday Inn to, I think he's going to be all right.
Doesn't need that stress in his life.
No. So on the move to Sea Island, then, when you've got what does a week look like for Justin Parsons?
A week here on the island will be Monday to Saturday teaching. I'll open my book. It's quite nice here. We used to start at 7 in Dubai. We start at 9 here on the island. So I'll get the kids off to school when I'm here, which is nice. Get a little bit of exercise done, get in here and get started at 9. We've got an unbelievable facility here with teaching studios and 3D room and club fitting and putting upstairs, a little like Phil Kenyon's, our director of putting instruction here. And Phil's got a studio here with the putt view and sand putt lab and, everything. So we've got a beautiful gym upstairs. So, we'll get in. I'll teach from 9 until 12. I'll take a quick lunch and I'll get back in here and do an afternoon stint. The boys who either aren't playing here or they're in between tournaments or what have you. So for example, this week I've got Patton Kazar, towards the end of the week. I'll probably get Michael Thompson in because those guys aren't at the Dell match play. Then those boys will go to San Antonio next week. Michael may not go to. I need to figure out his schedule, but then Brian will be back, and Harris. I've got Gary Woodland recovering from COVID with him and his family. He's been kind of isolating. He's going to start playing again on Thursday. He sent me a couple of swing videos, and Louis. So I might end up down in Florida next week for a day or two with Masters prep.
Yeah,
I'll just have to see, what those guys want. So, you have a schedule, but then you also have to be kind of reactive to things. I'll go to Augusta on Sunday week, and I'll probably stay there most of the week, and then it'll be Hilton Head, which is a cool little event because it's only about 90 minutes away, so I can go late on a Monday. I'll do a bit of teaching here on the Monday, maybe do a short week there, and then come back here and do a bit of teaching on the weekend. And normally I take Sundays off. So my son's 5, he's gone crazy about fishing. He caught a big sea trout on the weekend. He's nuts about it.
Amazing. And
my daughter rides some horses and does gymnastics and stuff here, so we run around after them a bit, and it doesn't leave you with a great deal of time, but by the time you sit down in the evenings, you're pretty much toast.
Well, you spoke there about the Masters prep. So obviously our favourite tournament, and I'm sure a lot of people's favourite tournament. So what goes into your Masters prep from start right up to the start of the tournament?
Well, I think, if we can find a way, like Louis and I would have prepared at Old Palm, and they got the greens there pretty quick. So we would have done a lot of, complex breaking putts. I am no Phil Kenyon. My putting stuff's okay, but I can certainly, devise a practice plan for a player. We would have looked at the types of distances, second shot distances that he would have, and make sure that he was executing quite well from, you get a lot of shots at Augusta, 175 to 200. You get a few big shots from 200 to 225. So I'll kind of compartmentalize it into the PGA Tour stats and just make sure the player, is happy with how he's hitting the golf ball. If there needs to be any swing stuff, let's get it done well before the tournament. B, he knows how far everything's going. If we can work onto some of the sloping lies that we would have there at Augusta, I think they've got so much longer these days. And do you remember a few years ago, it used to be, well, you have to hit it right to left at Augusta if you're going to do well.
Yeah, because we have that time where Martin Keimer, which wants to change his complete swing.
I think everyone hits it so much higher and so much further now. It doesn't seem to be as much of a thing. I still think it's a little bit of an advantage getting around the corner at 9 and 13. And if you were very left to right and very, very much shorter, it's probably going to be a disadvantage to you. But, most of the time now it's really with driver 3-wood, if you're hitting it high, solid and straight, your distance control is good. And obviously around the greens, and particularly on the greens, you're going to get used to those very complex, heavy breaking putts. A lot of preparation in that area will probably go a long way.
Amazing.
Just jumping back to a weekend, the life of Justin. If you take bookings for if we wanted to book in or anything like that, or you're strictly with the big boys?
We are big.
Well,
I mean, yeah, obviously we're always like.
No, I've got to the point really now.
When can you book us in?
I run my own book here at the moment. I give we have a few great people who look after 12. We have 12 teaching, fitness, putting, and we have a gentleman, Dr. Morris Pickens, who's a golf psychologist, performance specialist. And we have 4 club fitters here, 3 full-time club fitters. So trying to kind of put all of that together is hard. With me running around the country a bit, I do look after my own schedule. The guys here will have access to, let's say, 4 to 8 hours a week where they can book in people, as we go along. And generally speaking, lads, now it's like, if I'm going to embark on a journey with someone, I'm kind of like, I use the Coach Now app. I make sure that I'm following people's progress. People text me, they put swings up online. I don't charge extra for all of that stuff. I have a big enough fee whenever you're here. So it needs to be more of a, we're either embarking on a journey with someone, that be a high school player, college player, or we're looking after, one of the guys that are coming through Sea Island that have really requested me. So if you boys came in, I'm sure I could find an hour or so, and we'd have some fun along the way.
Yeah, you need more than an hour on me, I think.
That's all we wanted to hear. Thanks for the interview. See you later.
Right.
We're in now.
But another thing, Justin, so say if, for instance, we're not embarking on a journey, like we're just coming, we're getting one lesson and we're paying X amount. Or like, say for instance, Gary Woodland comes, and how does the money work with that? Did you just take X amount of, do they pay monthly, or is it per lesson, or what's, I've never...
Well, yeah, whenever I came, whenever I came here, it was clear what I was doing. The guys here have been fantastic. And they said to me, listen, we want a presence on tour. We want somebody who's able to service the tournament professionals that live here, as well as being, somebody who could maybe teach, an elite level player who might someday move to Sea Island. We've got 12 or 15 professional golfers that live here on the island. So, I've been fortunate enough to have a sort of a two compartments of my income in that regard. I've got my relationships with tour players that I'm going to go and help on tour and on the road, etc. And then I've got my Sea Island business, which is set aside. So, I'll probably end up committing to between 18 and 22 weeks on the road, and then I'll commit, let's say, 22 to 25 weeks here at Sea Island. And that's working quite well for us at this point in time. It basically means they have a good presence with somebody who's helping some of the best golfers in the world, and then also that person comes back here and represents the resort and the facility whenever he's at home. So it's hopefully a win-win for both me and the tour players in Sea Island.
That's brilliant. So how long did you work with Woodland? Was you with him when he won his major?
No, Gary came and talked to me in Ohio. We had the Workday tournament, if you remember, when we had the COVID thing, and we had a bit of a shutdown. We got going again, and we had the Workday tournament, and then we had the Memorial back-to-back at Jack's place in Ohio. And Gary had, during COVID, had lost a lot of weight. During the lockdown, he'd lost a lot of weight, and then he kind of lost his way a little bit with his game. Butch, who's always done his long swing stuff, wasn't traveling. Pete Cowan wasn't really traveling a lot at the time, who had done a little bit with his golf swing, but I think Gary needed some help. He had a pretty damaged left hip whenever I started working for him. He had got himself a little bit too light, in my opinion, for Gary, because he's a very, very strong man with a big, strong man's golf swing. And we struggled our way through Winged Foot, which was his US Open defense, where he really was, I would say he wasn't quite healthy enough to play, but he's a very proud man who wanted to go out there and try and represent. And he tried to go out there and put in a performance. Yeah. He's had some work done on his hip to get himself back to full fitness. And I think we're certainly turning a corner. We need some performances now to underline the hard work that he's put in. And he was unfortunate enough to get COVID-19 2 weeks ago, and he went to test at the Honda Classic. So that's kind of been another little bit of a setback for him. But he's a great champion. Whether I'm the one who helps him to get back to where he belongs, or whether somebody else is, he's going to get there at some point in time. And I've got every confidence in him. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, amazing. So obviously you've achieved a lot in your career. Just that it's clear to see from the caliber of players that you've got. Do you have any proudest moments of journeys and things and stories that you can share with us about the players that you've seen progress and then go on to do amazing things in the game?
I mean, I did talk about Peter Uihlein, earlier on, and that was a big thrill for me, because I literally was doing that on my own. Pete was flying to Dubai. We were working. There was no outside stuff. It was, and he was really struggling at the time. And to see him come through, he won one of the Corn Ferry final events in Ohio. Ended up on the PGA Tour, and that was a great thrill for me, because I felt like, well, I can do this now. I mean, I can help a guy who's really struggling, albeit a very talented guy, and I can kind of give him some structure, give him some good swing advice, and get him back on his feet. Michael Thompson won the 3M Open last year in Minnesota, and Michael wasn't a dissimilar case. He hadn't been injured, but he'd really lost a lot of confidence. He lost a lot of focus on what was making him a great player, and putting his practice plans back together, getting him to get into his putting practice, get into his wedge practice, stop trying to change your swing every week. He ended up winning the 3M Open, but more recently, Harris English's stuff has been fantastic to see him. Yeah. We started, I would say it was about May of 2019, so it was kind of just before Gary would have won that US Open in Pebble Beach. And Harris is a brilliant golfer. Harris is talked about in the same terms of like Rory McIlroy, and you remember back the day Oliver Fisher. That was that group of players that were coming through. and to take Harris and to help him rediscover like who he is on the golf course, rediscover his style of swing, and then to see him win in Hawaii has been a great thrill. So, those are the, I guess like we are involved in professional sport and you've got to win. So seeing guys actually win is that's the thing that really confirms what you're doing. And even if you get a guy who has 10 top tens in a row and makes a gazillion dollars, it still doesn't feel as good as when you see them win.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
The W in it.
Do you know the way you've been speaking and you're on the road and you're with the players and you're coaching them? Do you find yourself being like a coach, a psychologist, a mentor, all in one, or do you keep it strictly golf?
No, you're everything.
Yeah,
you have to be a little bit of everything. If you're working with these players, you've got to help them with whatever they need to be helped with. So I'm not Phil Kenyon, but I can watch a guy hit some putts and I can give him something. And I'm not Dr. Bob Rotella, but if somebody's low on confidence and I have to talk to him in a way that's going to help him grow in confidence, then you have to do that. And I'm not Chris Como, but if somebody came to me and asked me about biomechanics, I can take them into the gear studio. I can give them some good biomechanics information. So, you've got to have a wide toolbox, I think, as a golf coach, if you're working on tour like that. And I think that's where a lot of people think it's just about telling them how to swing the club. You got to remember, these guys have been great players in college, Walker Cup players. They already kind of know how to swing the golf club. Sometimes all you're doing is reminding them what they already know, because golf, as we all know, it gets so convoluted. Like we have, one week you're thinking about one thing, the next week you're thinking about another thing. So sometimes it's just getting them back to things that they kind of know how to do and they may be forgotten about, and other times it's introducing new stuff, but you have to be a bit of everything.
No, definitely.
Brilliant. So what's your favorite tournament to be involved in, and Justin, out of all the tournaments that you're involved in?
The Players Championship was just a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's a great event. I mean, I would have to say the Open, and obviously the Irish Open is great, but in terms of like coming over here and seeing what's on offer over here, the Players is a terrific event. The golf course is fantastic. The golf course presentation is amazing. The questions it asks is great. Jacksonville's a cool place. Jack's Beach is a cool place. There's a lot of fun there whenever the world is normal. There's a lot of fun to be had. The crowds enjoy themselves. 17's amazing. So that's probably one of my favorites. Going to, if you get to Eastlake, it's a great event to go to the Tour Championship. You really have achieved, you're in the top 30. I went with Louis a couple of years and went with Harris and Louis this year. So it's been to be able to go to Eastlake is kind of like you've done a good job if you're with one of the guys at Eastlake too.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
Brilliant.
So moving forward then for Justin, if like you've got your stable of players and you're gonna just keep on working with them, keep plugging, and you just keep your schedule as it is, or have you got bigger aspirations? Like, is there anyone that you want to work with or anything like that?
I'd be lying if I said I'd love to have tried to help Rory with what he's been doing. I mean, I think having access to some of the very, very best players in the world gives you an opportunity to figure out, well, is my stuff really going to help the best golfers in the world? So of course we do all of aspirations. It's funny you guys should say that. It's like you start thinking about the way the game's changing with the speed stuff and the nutrition and the science attached to it, and you find that a lot of that work's going on behind the scenes, and a lot of that work will go on here at Sea Island, and evolving in that respect with our facility to be able to have high school guys coming up who are able to hit the golf ball 300 yards, and having college players who are able to hit the golf ball 315 or 320 yards. I think that is that's the way the game is moving. But I still love being involved with the people around the game. I still, I love being involved with the caddies. I love being involved with the tour. I love being, out this morning with JT Griffin, who's going up to Savannah this week. He's a very good golfer out of Georgia Tech in his early 30s, and he's playing a Corn Ferry event. He needs to kick on. He needs to get himself moving, and within all of those players is there's a little story there, and there's a little journey that you're having with them.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we can, it's not like we can take like a professional golfer and say, right, I want to play in this, this, and this, and I want to play Ryder Cups and do this and this and this, because you can't really live your dreams through other people's achievements.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm enjoying the role that I have with everyone within the game, and I'm enjoying, digesting the way the game's moving and how the game's being played at the very highest level. And I'm certainly looking forward to getting home and getting to Royal St. George's in July, and hopefully getting back to Ireland for a couple of weeks to see everyone, because it's been a long old stint.
That's it, yeah. And then just one more question for me. Just obviously as a coach, that there must be part of the teaching that you enjoy better than others. So for you, what is it that like gets you up in the morning and when you see something in a golf swing, you think, right, I really enjoy this part of fixing this element of the game?
I think if I can fix it without letting them know that I'm fixing it, that's what I love to do.
Okay.
So, for example, today I was on the range with JT, and there's a little flag at 134. I'd lasered the flag into off the right. Little breeze, nothing too. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. So he's hitting these wedges, and they're just turning over a little bit too much. And I said, we said to him, look, I want you just to hold one into that wind. He couldn't really do it. I made a little tiny adjustment with his grip pressure in his right hand, which I thought would stabilize the face. And he hit 2 or 3 of these beautiful little cut shots. And he said, is that a good thought for me this week, just to increase my grip pressure a little bit in my right hand? I thought, yeah, that'd be great. So if that little tiny thing helped him to get his right side onto it, to stabilize the face and stop hitting the ball left, and it's just one little feeling for him, then I think I'm doing a decent job, because it's not too, it's not too convoluted, and it's not going to confuse him.
Yeah. So we're there to stop hitting it left. Just repeat them 3 things for Mark, because you struggle with the left.
No. I need to send the invoice if we're going to repeat those.
Oh yeah, I need all the help I can get, to be honest.
Well, hopefully we won't. As you say, we're conscious of time, so we won't keep you too long. But hopefully, if you're over at St. George's, we're going to try and get down there and just set up a tent and just start annoying everyone. To be honest,
that'd be good. Well, you boys are certainly good at that. It'll be fun. The Open, Darren won there the last time it was at St. George's. Shane's going to be defending.
Yeah,
I think it's just I'm actually going to get the vaccine this afternoon. I don't know how close you guys are to doing it, so it's hopefully we're coming to the end of this spell, and I hope you guys all get out in the golf course again pretty soon. I think is it end of March, or is it
Monday?
Are they open again?
6 more days. Yeah, this is the last week that we can't play. So as of Monday, we're back until Boris says no again. But
so
yeah,
there won't be another podcast until October then. A few.
Oh yeah, shut down. We'll be on the course every day. Yeah.
Are you still playing yourself, Justin, at all?
It's funny. I made a kind of commitment myself this year to start to get back into it, and I try to hit a lot of golf balls. Then I've committed to having back surgery, and now I've committed to doing a workout plan that one of the trainers on tour, he said, look, please do this 6 weeks before you do the back surgery. So I'm on day 4, and I'm on day 4 of what's that going to be, 42 days. And he said to me, maybe halfway through it, start hitting some balls and see how your body feels. I've got no discs left between sort of L4 and S1. So every time I hit golf balls, I get this numb sort of thing going down my right leg, which isn't very clever. So I still like to get out there and chip a few and hit the odd one here and there, but I need to get something done physically, and my coaching life and my family life have definitely gotten in the way of my golf in the last few years, but then that's understandable.
Of course it is.
Well, if you get back on your feet by the time we in the summer, we're gonna have the Bogey Boys Golf Day. Big Hudson said he's gonna if he's over, he'll pop down as well. So you're more than welcome. The invite's there.
That'd be awesome, boys. I'd love it. I mean, I definitely have a look at these left shots and see if I can't get you boys on the straight and narrow before I snap like a couple into the woods myself.
Definitely, yeah. Any help is much appreciated. But no, look, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us again. I know you've obviously got a busy schedule, and let's say we wish your players the best of luck for the coming weeks, and especially in the Masters, and hopefully we get a few more wins.
Yeah, and Hudson said that he was going to throw the word in with Harris to get onto the podcast, but then he seems to be ignoring us. So can you throw the word in as well?
I'll see what I can do. We'll maybe do
or Louis or Woodland or any of them. To be honest,
get them all on.
Louis great value on them, but maybe do a Sea Island special. We could get them all out here. You
Oh,
can have
let's
a
do
chat
it.
with them all.
Wait, we'll hold you to
As long
that.
as you slow down, don't speak too fast. Because
No,
if you
that's
speak
it.
too fast, it
Yeah,
doesn't work.
The Scouse
Yeah,
accent,
that's just
yeah.
for you, that, because you're used to it.
Lads, thanks very much.
No, thanks,
Cheers,
Justin.
Justin, we'll be
Yeah,
in
you
touch.
take care. We'll be in touch. Take care, mate.
Sounds good. Cheers.
Thanks, mate. See you in a
Cheers.
bit.
Bye-bye.
The beer cold though? That's real.
In style, you got to celebrate the
You've got it. You've got to say.
Yeah, and then so I've seen bits, and I know that you've always got that hat on.
Oh, but look, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the
What
season.
you doing? What you doing?